This is Gemara and Yoma Daf Pei. Tonight's shir should be a schos for shlim for man v'vig chaim v'soch some simen rizis herbas knendel ita basiyam bas chayso yisol medel petzl shavlei shom mas nami v'shavig shulchan shmol v'ntila tina mechan rizil chay basin lebracha v'stefamus adina ita bashin mental sleep v'vig dvar nechel sur natil lehuva rivka bas v'shem tel sim nechel Esther v'so shachli Yisrael as well as schos shidduch for Yisrael Chaim ben Devaira and at the Leah bas ita. We pick it up on the Larry bottom of Pei Amid Ayin Testament Beis. The last three words, Tanya Rebbe Omer. Tanya Rebbe Omer, one more second, apologies. Tanya Rebbe Omer, turning over to today's Daf Pei Amid Aleph. And a quick apology on the echo of the previous year. Hopefully in today's year it'll be a little bit better. Again, we're working on new recording environment. So Tanya Rebbe Omer says, Rebbe, Kol Ashiurim Kulan. One more time, this is not working. One more time, here we go. Tanya Rabbi Yomer, Kol Ashirim Kulan Bikazayis Chutz Mitomas Oichlin. All Shirim. Now we're going to a bit of a general discussion about Shirim after yesterday's heated discussion about Shirim. Concise Agasa, the Shir of eating on Yom Kippur, says the Gemara Kol Ashirim Kulan Bikazayis Chutz Mitomas Oichlin. All Shirim go by Kazayis except for the Toma of food Shashina Akasav Kimashmain, because the Torah deviated from the normal way of talking. And because the Torah said something different, therefore Chazal said the shir is different. And the proof is Yom Kippur. A bit of an enigmatic, cryptic statement. Again, says the Gemara, the Torah wrote something a little bit different. So Chazal said the shir is a little bit different. And the proof to this is Yom Kippur. Let's explain. Says the Gemara, what does it mean that the Torah changed the pasuk? The Torah says, "Miloi seuneh." The pasuk says you should not be afflicted. It doesn't just say to not eat. So the unique lashon, unique changing, that tells me something is different. And what did Chazal, what did the Rabbanan change because of this? That they made the shear into the shear of a date and not the regular shear of a kazayis. And what's the rayo? The third piece of this puzzle is Yoma Kippur. And what's the rayo? If just from the fact of Yom Kippur, I would have thought that no, over there it's different. Over there it's different. So once we know that the Torah wrote something different by Yom Kippur, and then the Torah wrote something different by us, there by Toma, now we know that both of them are slightly different. Let's just see two Rashis. Rashi, the first narrow line in Ma Raya. Rashi says, Lam Lahavi Raya. My ulma the high mehai. What do we need a proof for? Why is one more than the other? My pirish b'yom kippurim b'mishnah. Loidienu to teach us, says Rashi. Sha'atam, that the reason the pasuk says it different mishum deshini hakasavu yoiser mishaloi pirshu hasam betomanami chazin deshini hakasavu mashmoi. So we see that by us it's also different from the fact that we have a deviation by Shirim and we have a deviation by us by Yom Kippur, shows us it's going to be different. And now one more Rashi says Imei Hasam Mideshina Hakasav Betoma, for the fact that Torah over there did a little bit differently. Ava Amina, I would have thought Ein Shine Hakasav Deorchu. Just like by liquids of Thomas says so for the fact by us it's for sure strange. We know the shir of Yom Kippur is different, and now we know it's so basically each one complements the other. By Yom Kippur it's something different, by Thomas it's something different. By Yom Kippur it's for sure strange, by Thomas the din is strange. So therefore we end up that we know that by both Yom Kippur and Toma, the din is going to be slightly different. But now that we've said that, says the Gemara, what's this din of Toma that you're talking about? Tomas Eichlin B'Kebeya Minalan. Where do we know that when it comes to Toma, everything goes by Abeya, Amar Abu, Amar Avlazad, Amar Akra? It says in the Torah, Mikol Oichla Asher Ya'achel, Oichla Ba Machmas Oichel. So it's a food that comes from a food. Mikol Oichel Asher Ya'achel. Interesting double wording from all the food that you're going to eat, and therefore that wording says the Gemara, we know that it's food that comes from food. What is food that comes from food? That is the egg of a hen, and that's how we're going to get the shear of a beya. Says the Gemara, how do you know? Maybe it's talking about a gedi, because a gedi also comes from another source, comes from mami goat. Says the Gemara, no, because a gedi, you have to shecht it, so don't bring me a proof from gedi. The unique scenario when you shecht an animal and inside the animal is a fetus, that that fetus does not need to be slaughtered because the shechita, the slaughter of the mother, of the father figure, the mother figure actually, is considered a shechita on the ben baku, on the baby inside the tummy. So now we have a case of a animal that does not necessarily need shechita. Says the Gemara, you're right, but ta'in kriya, a ben bakua, has a different din that needs to be ripped open in order to get rid of the blood. Says the Gemara, okay, so you can't learn from Ben Bakua. Maybe it's referring to a Beitas Bar Yochli, is referring to a hen, the hen of a Bar Yochli, which is a much larger hen, and therefore bigger eggs. How do you know it means a regular sized egg? Maybe it means a big egg. Says the Gemara, tafasta meruba loy tafasta klal. A general rule, whenever we have a choice, learn from A, learn from B, we always go by the smaller amount. Says the Gemara, tefasta, you always go with the smaller and not the larger amount. Says the Gemara, okay, ve'ema bi asa tzipurta. If you want to go small, I'll go even smaller. Maybe an egg of a small bird, dizuta tuva, which is very small. Answers the Gemara, Ravavua didei amar, says Ravavua, mikol eichel asher eichel, sha'ata eichel bevasacha. Says Ravavua, no, it means an eichel you eat at one time, and what is the avashir chacham in beis habli amach? What is a one-time food, a one swallow? Is the egg of a hen, not the egg of a small bird. That's too small. So in fact, we know that that's a one-time food. Learning out it's a one-time food, and we know it's a food that comes from a food, an egg that comes from a hen. That does not lack another action of either shechita or of ripping open the blood. Therefore, says the Gemara, now we know that the shear of toma, of impurity by food, is going to be the shear of a Beya of a egg's worth. Omar Rav Elazar. Okay, that was din number one today. Din number one, as we see in the top line, called Shir and Kulam B'Kazayis Chotzman Tomas Eichlen, which is a Beya due to the fact that we deviated in the Torah, we deviated by Yom Kippur, and therefore by Toma it's going to be a Beya of a what? Of a hen, not a Gedi, not a goat, not a Bar Yochli, not a teeny little bird. The egg of a hen, like Rav Chisda taught us, the amount that you eat at one time. Omar Rav Elazar, says Rav Elazar, about 15 lines down. First one line is Elazar. Says Rav Elazar, once I'm on the topic of shira, let me tell you another din. If you eat chela, forbidden fats nowadays, got to write in your pincus, write in your ledger, that write out how much you ate. Again, you ate smaller than the quantity, but write down how much you ate, because maybe a bezdin will change this year, and it's an end up you're going to be obligated in a carbon, and you're not going to know when the Beis Hamikdash comes. So when you write down, you do an avera, write down how much you ate. Says the Gemara, what exactly does that mean? If you're going to tell me the mechayvi carbon akazai katan, then maybe the latter chacham in the Rabbanim are going to come and say that you're obligated a carbon even on a small kazayis. Vatani learned to the Brisa. Asher loy seyasena bishkaga. It says in the pasuk with regard to carbonates, that which you do not do bishkaga, unintentionally, va'asham, and you become guilty. So we learn out from here. Someone who repents, someone who returns from his yediyah, he now realizes what he does wrong, that if you tell him the avira, he'll stop transgressing, he brings a carbon. He will not bring a carbon. So says the Gemara, this can't be the case, because if this was the case, that you have to write down the shear, it's not possible, because the whole premise of a carbon is only if you were to know what you did wrong, you would refrain. But if this guy knows what he does wrong, he would not refrain. Why not? You're eating chaylev because you're eating too small. Maybe they'll go and change the shiur, and that's great. Let them change the shiur. But right now, if you were to tell me my avera, would I refrain? The answer is no. Why no? Because this is not the shiur that obligates me in a carbon. Excuse me, so says the Gemara, that can't be the reason why you're writing it down. Ella, what must the reason be? Rav Elazar meant that you should write down, because the new bezdin maybe will not obligate you until there is a large kazayis. Meaning Rav Elazar is saying that let's say you eat a beinani, a medium level of chaylev, you should write, And you should write not that you're chayiv, but rather that you ate a medium level. For what reason? So maybe they'll tell us that you're not chayiv. Meaning, again, there's the opposite case. If you don't write the shear, you might end up thinking you're obligating a carbon, and you're not. So the Rebbe Lezer is teaching us to reverse. He's not teaching us the chumrah. He's teaching us a potential kula. Says the Gemara, okay, great. What was your havamina? What does it mean that they're going to increase the shear? You can't increase the shear. Says the Gemara, Shema. Excuse me, yarbe bekarbanos machmas shirim. No, it means that maybe you'll increase the amount of karbanos you have to bring due to these shirim. And that is the end of din number 2 of today, of Rav Eliezer, that write down what you ate so that you don't get messed up in the future. Din number 3 says, Rav Yechanan, Rav Yechanan, shiurim, shiurim, the quantity that you have to eat, and the oinshim and their punishment is a halacha l'Moshe misihinai. Oinshim, we know that punishments are, excuse me, oinshim mechtav ksivi, it says in the Torah, says the Gemara. So why are you telling me it's halacha l'Moshe misihinai? It's oinshin, it's pesukim in the Torah. Halacha l'Moshe misihinai means an oral tradition that Moshe taught us. That's not true, it's an open pasuk. Says the Gemara, this is what we mean to say. Rav Yechanan, shiurin shal oinshin halacha l'Moshe misihinai. The shear of the oynish, of the punishment that was taught to Moshe, and Tanan Amiyachia writes the shear shal oinshin halacha l'Moshe misinai. Achirim argue on the second din, and they say Bezdin shall yayvit. Take Namuz a different Bezdin. I've from the fact that we find. Excuse me. The says the Gemara, I don't understand. The Navi is not allowed to create a novelty and not allowed to create a new din. So it must be an old din. Doesn't mean the Navi is creating something new. Rather, it means we forgot the halacha and the Navi just reinstating the old halacha. Says the Gemara, next part of the Mishnah. That's eating the shear that you eat because it's like gas of this large state. What was next in the Mishnah? Was Hashay said that one who drinks malay lugmav, a cheek full of liquids, that is what you are obligated, chayiv, kares, biblically forbidden, to consume on Yom Kippur. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel mean that he actually fill up both of your cheekfuls, that the liquid, the quantity that fills up your entire mouth, mouth, cheeks, the whole area. No, it's not what it means. It means that if you move it to one side, that cheek will stick out. That's the amount of mali lugmav. It means you put the amount that you put in. If you put on one side, that side will stick. It doesn't mean the full cheek fulls. It means one cheek full. Says the Gemara. That sounds very beautiful, but there's a problem with the wording. But we learned in the plural. You're telling me it's singular. Ema answers the Gemara. Change it. Kim mali lugmav, like the quantity of a mali lugmav. Says the Gemara. It's still not happy. Rav Yehuda, I remember Shem Rav Elazar, Kim Ali Lugma, Rav Yehuda ben Beseira, Mikadei Gemiyah. 4 opinions. We have Ravius, we have a cheekful, or we have like a cheekful, or we have Kadei Gemiyah, the amount to swallow. So obviously the question is apparent, because we see in this brisa clearly that a cheekful is not the same thing as a Kim Ali Lugma, like a cheekful. It's 2 different quantities. Says the Gemara, Miadiva, Mimastisan, is this any better from our Mishnah? The Kimla Kadei Yira. In the Mishnah, we changed the words of the Mishnah. Chanamik this year changed the words of this brisa as well. But the Gemara is not so happy because Yachanu Rav Elazar, that is the din of Rav Elazar. Answers the Gemara, if you could force it into your cheeks, that's going to be the difference between Rav Elazar and our Mishnah. Says that the meaning that according to Beis Hillel, that you have to drink the amount when you put it in one cheek is very full, whereas Rav Elazar in the brisa was saying that even when it's only a little full, a little bit of a minor difference between the two. Maskla Rav Oisha, 2 lines to the bottom, Imkain, Havle Mikuli Beishemai V'chomer Beis Hillel. So now if you do the math, Beis Hillel is being more machmir, but we know that the Mishnah, it is that list which are the kulas and the chumras, and this Mishnah is not listed. Amar Le, he responds as we move along to Peyam Beis, Ki Itchol. No, he was asking Ba'ig Melech Habash and Itchol. And therefore, it's not true. The Havalei Beishami L'chumra, because then it comes out that Beishami is a chumra, so that's the reason why it's not listed in that Mishnah of chumras of Beis Hillel. Matzler of Zeira. Something's funny, says Rav Zeira. When it came to eating, what was the shear, said the Mishnah? A quantity, a large date, not subjective of each and every person. But drinking goes each person by his own quantity. What is the reason? Abaye responds, Abaye 5 lines down. Kim lahula rabbanan b'koseves debahachi misva daita. When it comes to eating, Chazal taught us what is the quantity, how much food settles your mind, puts you in ease. That's a keseves agas, that's a large date. B'shtia, when it comes to drinking, says the Gemara, b'didei misva daita b'dechavrei lo misva daita. When it comes to eating, when it comes to drinking, it is more subjective. When it comes to drinking, you want to know what settles your mind. What settles your mind is not what settles his mind. And that's the reason why when it comes to drinking, we said it's subjective to your cheeks. If you're oik, you're obviously going to have a larger cheek. Maskler of Zeir asks you of Zeir v'chalaylam kulay b'kisaves v'oik melchabashim b'kisaves. Really? Is that true? You just told me that when it comes to eating food, it's settling your mind. And what settles your mind? The dateful. Says the Gemara, a date of me and a date of oik, a giant. It's going to be the same amount to settle the person. How could that be? Amar le Abaye, says Rabbi, yes. Kim lahulu rabbanan debachi meisa daite. That is the amount. Vatmach lo meisa daite. Miu kuli alma tuva. V'oik melchabashan porta. It's true. It's all going to settle your mind. It's all in levels. So when it comes to a regular person, having a keseves gas, having a date, it's going to really settle you, put you at ease. If something is full, you're feeling great. When it comes to oik, you're right. It won't fully fill him up, but it will at some level settle his mind a bit. That is the reason why. That is the shir. That is what Chazal have taught us. Maskevla Rav Zera asked the Gemara, Basar, Shemin, V'keisaves, meat and wine, meat and oils by a date, V'lul V'kefanim V'keisaves, and shoots of grains is also like a kesaves. So what's the problem? How can it be that the same amount of food and the same amount of grapevines is going to settle someone's mind? It's going to make you full, make you calm. He says, Abai, yeah, this is Chazal, and their infinite wisdom. They taught us, says Abai, Kim Rabbanan. That's how one is going to make you more full, one make you less full. Again, the same levels, just like we saw by oik. One, it fills up the person entirely, by oik, it fills up a little bit. So too says the Gemara when it comes to different foods, one fills you up a lot. A good piece of beef, a good fatty steak will really fill you up with these grapevines. Won't fully fill you up, but it will fill you up a little bit. It says in a brisa that what is the quantity, and we also have to always have two moving components when it comes to shirim. We have the quantity of the shir, and we have the amount of time to eat that shir. Says the Gemara, the quantity is keseves, the quantity is a Concise, but what's the amount of time? Achilas pras, the amount of time it takes to eat a loaf of bread. Says the Gemara, two different quantities, a little Concise, a large keseves. They're both going to be within the same amount of time of eating a loaf of bread. Yes. A very similar theme we keep on having, how the Chachamim Abaye is teaching us knew when your mind will be settled, when you'll be calm, and it has to do with these ingredients. Asks Rava, it comes out that everything is the same amount. How's that possible? How is the same amount of eating a half a bread and a date both going to settle you as much? Says the Gemara, Amalei Rapapa responds, Hanach letomas kaviyah. What are you asking me from? You're asking me from Tumas Kaviyah. You're asking me from Tumah on the body. That is not a din deraisa, therefore you cannot ask from there. Says the Gemara, really? Does Rapapa believe what he just said? What he says in the Torah. You should not become tummy and let you become tummy through them. And Rapapa explained me, Tumas Kaviyah deraisa. You just explained me, don't ask me from Tumas din derabanan. We see Rapapa himself holds. It's a din deraisa. Says the Gemara, midrabanan v'kras. Nope, it is a din derabanan. You have a pasuk. That pasuk is in a smachta be'alma. Kol lo ichlin. Let's finish up. Says the Gemara. We quoted the end of the Mishnah that all foods combine for the equivalence of a keseves agas, a large date. If you eat a piece of meat and the salt combines in order to be the shear. Vaf al-gav explains the Gemara Delav Achili. Eating salt, you take a bucket of salt and eat it. You might go to the emergency room. That's not called achila. Yet, but since people eat salt with meat, therefore the two are yes mitzarif, they yes combine. And through the next few examples, we'll get a better feel of what's going on over here. The brine on top of the vegetables combines, like Keseves by Yom Kippurim. B'shita, it's obvious. Malden would have thought. Mashkeu, when it comes, When it comes, okay, mashku kamash you would have thought it's a mashke. You would have thought that the brine is a type of drink. Says, well, no, it's a machshir loichel. It prepares and completes the food, therefore it's din of a food. Oh my rish, Lakish, one last example. Oichel achila gas of Yom Kippurim. Potter. This really going to open up for tomorrow. Says Rish Lakish, you stuff yourself with your potter. What's the reason? If you harm yourself, it's not called sunah, it's not called afflicting. We'll pick it up here tomorrow.